thought for 11s. I woke up with my fingers locked around a bloody kitchen knife, my cheek pressed against wet butcher block wood, and 27 noble students shouting for the guards. That was my first clue, that I was not in my apartment anymore. My second clue was the thing hanging above me. It was not a fluorescent kitchen lamp. It was half a wolf the size of a horse, skinned, silver-ribbed, and dripping pale blue blood into a brass drain that hummed every time the drops touched it. My third clue was the name being screamed at me. Mira Solven poisoned the victory feast. I did not know that name. Then I did. A whole life slammed into me so hard I nearly dropped the knife. Mira Solven, 30 years old, common-born kitchen assistant at Veyrath Monster Hunting Academy, failed mana aptitude, no noble sponsor, no combat license, no family except a younger brother in the outer city who needed medicine every 8 days, paid in copper meal tokens and humiliation. And somehow, also me. Before this, I had been Myra Chen on Earth, professional chef, 12 years in restaurants, 3 in a fermentation lab kitchen, 2 scars on my left hand from broken glass and 1 very embarrassing burn from duck fat. I knew temperature control, food safety logs, acid balance, stock extraction, protein breakdown, and exactly how much arrogance could fit inside a dining room before somebody got food poisoning. Apparently the answer was 1 academy dean. Dean Caldor stood in the butcher room doorway in his black and gold robes, clean as a funeral contract. He had silver hair, a square jaw, and the kind of polished disappointment rich people practice in mirrors. Beside him were 3 noble combat students in blue tournament cloaks. One of them had a green face, another was sweating through his collar, and the third kept touching his stomach like he was negotiating with it. Behind them, 2 kitchen guards aimed hooked spears at my ribs. On the floor near my knee was a tray of sliced nightboar liver, the edges glazed with a purple sheen. Even in a world I had entered 30 seconds ago, purple sheen on raw organ meat did not scream, safe dining experience. Dean Caldor pointed at the tray. She was found alone with the contaminated dish, he said. The combat team fell ill after eating from her station. Remove her license. Confine her. The academy cannot allow a common kitchen worker to sabotage noble hunters before the examination. I blinked once. License. Sabotage. Examination. Then Mira Solven's memories sorted themselves like knives, sliding into slots. The public monster cuisine examination was in 14 days. Every academy in the kingdom would send combat teams, beast core refiners, and kitchen halls to prove they could turn monster kills into cultivation resources. Veyrath Academy had been losing prestige for 3 years. Caldor needed a victory. The noble combat team had been fed rare monster organs from restricted stores to boost their performance. And when those organs made them sick, somebody had to become the poisoner. Conveniently, I was common-born, poor, and already holding the knife. I looked down at my hands. My nails were rimmed with blue blood. My sleeves smelled like iron, smoke, and spoiled berries. The knife was sharp, yes, but it was clean along the edge. No powder, no paste, no poison residue. The liver, though. The liver smelled wrong. Not rotten, not exactly. It smelled like heat trapped under wet stone, like sweetness curdling behind the teeth. A memory from Earth rose through the panic. Food does not have to be poisoned to poison you. Improper handling can do the job for free. One of the guards stepped forward. I should have cried. The original Myra probably would have. She had been tired for so long that fear had become a habit. But me. I had survived dinner service under a chef who threw copper pans. So I asked the first question that mattered. Where is the ingredient origin ledger? The room went quiet. Dean Caldor's eyes narrowed. What? The origin ledger, I said, keeping my voice flat. For the nightboar liver, which hunt team logged it, which beast core was removed, what was the holding temperature, who signed the transfer from the cold vault? A noble girl with pearl buttons on her collar scoffed. She is stalling. No, sweetheart, I was breathing. There is a difference. Caldor's mouth tightened. The matter is already clear. That is strange, I said. Academy food safety law requires all monster ingredients to be logged from kill to service, especially organs from mana-bearing beasts, especially if noble students are eating them before a public examination. His face barely changed, but his fingers curled. There it was, the first little crack. I did not know this world yet, not really. I did not know how its magic worked, or why monsters had cores, or why my stomach felt like a cold knot of weak embers. But I knew kitchens. And I knew one universal law. Powerful men hate paperwork until paperwork remembers them. They dragged me to the lower pantry instead of the guard tower, which told me Caldor was afraid of official witnesses. The lower pantry was a stone room under the kitchen hall where dried herbs hung from rafters and sealed barrels sweated in the dark. It smelled like salt, ash, old onions, and fear. The fear might have been mine. Hard to tell. I had been awake in this world for less than an hour and had already been accused of poisoning 6 noble students. Not my worst first day in a kitchen, but definitely top 3. They took the knife and locked the door with a copper seal that glowed when the bolt slid into place. I sat on an overturned flour crate and let Mira Solven's memories settle. Verath Academy trained monster hunters. The combat students killed beasts. The refining hall cracked beast cores. The alchemy wing processed venom, bone, gland, and blood. The kitchen hall turned safe monster meat into meals for training recovery. In theory. In practice, the noble students got marrow from ember stags, crystal eel broth, moonhen eggs, and core-fed steak. Common students got oat mash and tendon scraps. Kitchen workers ate whatever was left after the steam trays were scraped. The beast core economy ran everything. Monster cores were money, medicine, fuel, and cultivation shortcuts. Students absorbed core fragments to strengthen their bodies. The rich did it under supervision with filtered arrays. The reckless did it raw and called the seizures breakthrough pain. Mira Solven had failed 3 mana tests because her channels were too weak to absorb cores directly. That was why everyone treated her like furniture with hands. But as her memories unfolded, another detail surfaced. Her body had never rejected mana from food. She just had never been fed anything worth absorbing. I searched my apron pockets and found 3 copper tokens, a folded cloth, and a cracked tasting spoon. The spoon was ugly, bone handle, tarnished silver bowl, hairline cracked down the middle. It looked like something a grandmother would refuse to throw away because it still works. When my thumb touched the handle, the world changed. Not visually. Sensationally. The air tasted like meanings. The dried redcap mushrooms hanging to my left gave off a faint, earthy warmth at the back of my throat. Low mana density. Stable. Slight restorative quality. The barrel of pickled thornroot near the wall tasted sharp, sour, and clean. Acidic preservation. Safe if rinsed. The small jar near the door tasted bitter enough to make my tongue curl, even though I had not opened it. Toxin. I froze. The spoon did not speak. It did not flash words. No system panel appeared. No helpful chime announced, "Congratulations, you are now immune to bad decisions." It only gave sensations. Bitterness for toxins. Warmth for mana density. Numbness for unstable beast cores. Which meant it was less like a magical encyclopedia, and more like being trapped inside the world's strangest tasting menu. Useful, but only if I understood food. Lucky me. I tested it carefully. I touched the spoon to sealed jars, dried meats, a chipped bowl of old stock, and a sack of pale grain. Every sensation came with texture, temperature, aftertaste. The spoon showed properties, not answers. I still had to interpret them. That made it mine. A few hours later, the pantry door opened. Not Caldor. A young man slipped inside carrying a healer's satchel. He had soft brown skin, nervous hands, and academy robes that looked too large at the shoulders. His dark curls were tied back with a strip of linen. He closed the door quickly, then whispered, "Please do not stab me." I looked at my empty hands. "With what a turnip?" He blinked, then almost smiled. "I am Joran, healing track. I treated the combat team." Mira's memories recognized him. Joran Vale, scholarship student, shy. Brilliant at symptom tracking. Ignored by senior healers because he asked too many questions and fainted once during a horned basilisk autopsy. Mira had given him extra soup 3 times when he forgot to eat. That was apparently enough loyalty to risk a pantry visit. He knelt beside the crate and opened his satchel. Inside were 6 symptom slips. "I do not think you poisoned them," he said. "The symptoms are wrong." My spine straightened. "Tell me." He swallowed, vomiting blue sweat, shaking hands. Mana channels inflamed, but no mouth burns, no black veins, no pupil clouding. Poison from kitchen herbs would show different signs. This looks like core stress reaction. Core stress? My new memories supplied the definition. Mana overload from unstable beast core residue, usually caused by eating improperly cleaned organs from a core-bearing monster. So the liver was contaminated by unstable core tissue, I said. Joran stared at me. Most kitchen assistants would not know that. Unfortunately for everyone else, I was no longer most kitchen assistants. He leaned closer. "How did you know?" I lifted the cracked spoon. "I have a very judgmental utensil." That time, he did smile. Then he glanced toward the sealed door. "Dean Caldor is saying you confessed." I laughed once. It came out colder than I meant it to. Efficient. He framed me and saved me the paperwork. "There is more," Joran said. "The public monster cuisine examination begins in 14 days. If the Academy withdraws, Caldor loses his royal grant. If they compete and fail, he may lose the dean's seat. And if a common kitchen worker takes the blame for illegal ingredients, he survives." Of course he did. I looked at the spoon. I thought of the purple sheen on the liver, the 6 students, the missing ledger, the locked pantry, and the man who had chosen the easiest throat to step on. Then I asked Joran for 3 things. A list of 6 students, access to the kitchen records, and the biggest stockpot he could steal without being heroic about it. Joran did not steal the stockpot. He borrowed it from the infirmary kitchen, which was somehow worse because it came with a note from the head healer saying, "Return scrubbed or die." I respected her immediately. He also brought the symptom slips, 2 cold vault transfer copies, and a bundle of discarded bones from the feast prep. The bones were from the same Nightboar shipment as the liver. They were supposed to have been boiled for kennel broth and thrown away. I touched the cracked spoon to the first bone. Warmth bloomed up my arm. Then numbness prickled across my tongue. Monodense, unstable residue near marrow, not lethal if diluted, dangerous if served concentrated. I touched the spoon to the second bone. Same sensation, but weaker. Third bone, bitter edge. "Contaminated," I said. Joran flinched. "With poison." "No, with stupidity." He looked unsure whether that was a diagnosis. I set up in the infirmary kitchen after midnight, when the academy bells had gone quiet and the noble dormitories were full of people pretending they had not spent the evening vomiting into silver basins. Earth cooking rules saved my life that night. Monster meat in this world was treated like ore. Hunters killed it, refiners carved the core, alchemists took the glamorous organs, and cooks were expected to roast whatever remained until it stopped twitching. They believed strong mana meant strong food. They believed bitterness meant potency. They believed sweating blue after dinner was a sign your channels were opening. I believed in not poisoning your customers. The Nightboar bones were full of harsh mana. Too concentrated, too jagged. The trick was not to overpower it. The trick was extraction and dilution. Low heat, long time. Acid to pull minerals without ripping unstable fragments loose. Skimming foam, removing scum, separating fat, balancing with cold root, ginger leaf, and a little fermented thorn root for sourness. Joran watched me like I was performing forbidden necromancy with soup. You are not boiling it. Boiling breaks proteins, clouds the broth, and probably turns unstable mana into a funeral. He wrote that down. Please do not write funeral. He crossed something out. The spoon helped, but only in pieces. When the broth simmered too hot, the numbness sharpened behind my teeth. When I lowered the flame rune, warmth softened in my throat. When I added sliced cloud turnip, the bitterness faded. When I skimmed the blue-gray foam, the spoon's bowl stopped vibrating. After 3 hours, the broth turned clear gold with a faint silver ring of fat. I tasted one drop. Not with the spoon. With my mouth. Warmth spread through my chest, gentle as sunlight through a window. My weak mana channels, which had felt like frozen threads since waking up, loosened by a hair. Joran grabbed my wrist. You tasted it. I am the idiot in charge. That is not reassuring. No, but it is honest. We gave the first cup to Lysa Marrow, a common-born spear student who had eaten scraps from the feast and collapsed behind the stables. She was 17, shaking, and too scared to report symptoms because common students who complained were called weak. Joran checked her pulse before, during, and after. Within 12 minutes, her blue sweat faded. Within 27 minutes, her hands stopped trembling. Within 40 minutes, she sat up and asked if there was bread. I almost cried. Not because of gratitude. I had worked kitchens. Gratitude was rare. Mostly people complained the soup was too hot. I almost cried because the first thing I had made in this world had healed someone. Small victory, 1 cup of broth, 1 student not ruined by noble negligence. But small victories count when somebody powerful is trying to bury you. By dawn, we had treated 5 common students and 1 very embarrassed noble boy who swore he had only tasted a decorative liver ribbon. All 6 improved. Joran kept the slips. I kept the foam. That sounds disgusting because it was. I strained the unstable scum into 3 glass jars, sealed them, labeled them with abstract marks only I understood, and hid them behind a barrel of turnips. Evidence, in my experience, is like stock. You make it before you need it. At breakfast, Caldor summoned me to the main kitchen hall. He had expected a broken woman. I arrived scrubbed, calm and smelling faintly of ginger. The kitchen hall was enormous, with 12 hearth pits, hanging hooks, rune ovens, cold vault doors, and an entire wall of ingredient ledgers chained to brass rails. 50 workers moved under the eyes of 3 supervisors. No one looked at me directly. People loved justice until it might cost them their job. Caldor stood near the carving table with the noble combat captain, Arlen Voss, still pale but upright. The Academy has chosen mercy, Caldor said. You will not be expelled if you sign a statement admitting mishandling of the liver. A kitchen supervisor placed a parchment in front of me. My confession, prewritten. How thoughtful. I read it once. It said I had failed to follow cold vault procedure, contaminated a noble feast dish, and acted without instruction. 3 lies in the first paragraph. Sloppy work. I looked up. May I correct one detail? Caldor's lips curved. You may sign. The liver was not mishandled by me. His smile thinned. I tapped the ledger chain beside the table. If the origin record is complete, it will show who released it, what beast it came from, and whether the core was cleanly extracted. If it is not complete, Academy food safety law requires an automatic review. The room went quiet again. I was starting to enjoy that sound. Caldor stepped closer. Kitchen assistants do not interpret Academy law. No, I said, we follow it. He stared at me. So I gave him the calm warning. You may want to find the origin ledger before asking me to sign anything. For 1 second, his mask slipped. Then he smiled like a man closing a trap. Very well. Since you are suddenly passionate about procedure, you will be assigned to waste recovery and common mess preparation until the examination. 14 days. You will handle only scraps, bones, and rejected cuts. Nothing from the noble stores, nothing from the core vault, nothing that could possibly matter. He wanted to humiliate me. He had just handed a chef the bones. Poor man. He had no idea what flavor lived there. Waste recovery was a stone annex behind the kitchen hall, where Hope went to smell bad. There were bins of tendon, cracked shells, overgrown roots, bruised herbs, marrow bones, blood clots, and meat too tough for noble teeth. The academy called them rejected materials. On Earth, I would have called half of it inventory mismanagement and the other half Tuesday prep. Caldor's order was official. I was banned from noble ingredients, banned from feast service, and required to prepare the common mess, using only waste recovery supplies for 14 days. I signed the assignment record with a steady hand. Then I asked for a copy. The supervisor frowned. Why? For compliance. Nothing scares lazy authority like a poor woman saying compliance with a straight face. By noon, Joran joined me with symptom charts hidden inside a stack of laundry. He had dark circles under his eyes. I handed him a cup of broth. He sniffed it. Is this safe? Rude but fair. He drank. 10 seconds later, his shoulders dropped. Oh. Exactly. We started with stamina meals. Most weak students at Veyrath were not weak because they lacked courage. They were underfed, overtrained, and then blamed for poor performance. Their breakfast was gray oat mash. Their lunch was salted greens. Their dinner was whatever noble students did not want. Combat cultivation demands recovery. Muscles need protein. Mana channels need minerals. Bodies need fuel. This world had monster meat and magic roots and still somehow invented institutional malnutrition. Classic. The cracked spoon became my tasting compass. Tendons from horned hares gave a slow, sticky warmth when stewed 8 hours. Imberstag bone marrow was too hot raw, but mellowed when smoked first. Dried iron leaf tasted metallic and bitter until fermented with salt and thornroot for 2 days. Ground moon barley absorbed excess mana like rice absorbing broth. I built meals like training tools. Morning, marrow-thick congee with ginger leaf and chopped greens. Midday, shredded nightboar tendon buns, fermented turnip and bone broth. Evening, smoked hare stew with moon barley, bitter herbs balanced just enough to stimulate mana flow without nausea. No glowing cakes, no dramatic potions, just food that worked. The first group was 7 common track students Joran trusted. Lysa came back with 2 spear girls, a shield boy, a quiet archer, and twins from Trapcraft who looked like they could pick a lock with soup steam. I told them the rules. Eat everything. Report every symptom. Do not lie to impress me. Do not pick fights with nobles just because you can breathe without collapsing for once. The shield boy raised his hand. What if they pick fights with us? Then breathe efficiently while running away. They laughed. Good, laughter helps digestion. For 3 days, we fed them and tracked results. Joran recorded pulse, channel heat, training duration, recovery time, and mana sickness signs. On day 1, Lysa trained spear forms for 2 hours before shaking. On day 3, she trained for 4 hours and 15 minutes, then asked for seconds. The archer's hands stopped cramping. The shield boy's bruises faded faster. The twins began doing trap sprints after dinner, which was annoying but statistically useful. I felt changes too. I tasted every batch, adjusted every flame rune, and ate the same meals. My weak channels warmed. My hands steadied. I could carry 2 stock pots instead of 1. My breath stopped catching on the stairs. Small things, real things. Power, I was learning, did not always arrive as lightning. Sometimes it arrived as properly rendered collagen. Caldor noticed on day 4. He came to waste recovery with 2 noble students and Master Edric, the kitchen supervisor. His eyes swept over the clean tables, labeled jars, simmering pots, and students eating outside on overturned crates. This is unauthorized distribution of academy resources, he said. I wiped my hands on a cloth. These are rejected materials assigned to common mess preparation under your written order. His jaw tightened. Malicious compliance has a flavor. It tastes like warm broth and a man regretting paperwork. One noble student sneered at Lysa's bowl. "You are feeding Hunter's garbage." Lysa stood too quickly. I touched her shoulder. "No," I said. "I am feeding students what the academy threw away." Caldor stepped close enough that only I could hear him. "You think a few bowls of scrap soup make you valuable?" "No," I said softly. "I think sick students make records, recovered students make witnesses, and missing ingredient logs make auditors." His eyes sharpened. There. He understood enough to be dangerous, but not enough to stop. He straightened and announced, "Since Assistant Solven has such confidence, the common mess will supply the recovery meals for all lower-ranked combat students during the examination preparation period. If any fall ill, she will be fully liable." The kitchen workers stared. The students stared. Joran looked like he wanted to swallow his own tongue. Caldor smiled. He thought he had increased the pressure until I broke. I gave him exactly what he asked for. I bowed. "Please provide that order in writing." He did. Some villains do not need traps. They bring their own rope, tie the knot, and complain when gravity gets involved. By day 6, I was feeding 43 lower-ranked students. By day 7, it was 68. By day 8, the line outside waste recovery reached the laundry arch, and Master Edric stopped pretending he was not eating the leftovers. The official reason was recovery meal testing. The real reason was that weak students who ate my food stopped collapsing during morning drills. The noble combat team noticed. That caused problems. Not because they wanted the food. At first, they mocked it. They called it gutter stew, bone mud, commoner paste, and my personal favorite, poverty in a bowl. Then Arlen Voss, the noble captain, lost a practice bout to Lysa Marrow. To be clear, she did not beat him. She lasted 6 minutes. At Verath, that was basically a revolution. Arlen had silver armor, a family sword, and a core-refined body paid for by 12 generations of land taxes. Lysa had a spear with a repaired shaft and my marrow kanji in her stomach. She blocked 3 strikes, sidestepped 1 mana burst, and did not vomit afterward. The watching students went silent. Arlen went red. Caldor went still. That evening, the noble dormitory sent a servant to request a sample portion for comparative evaluation. I sent back 1 cup of plain oat mash. What? It was safe. The next morning, Caldor issued a new order. I was to prepare a special strengthening dish for the noble combat team using 1 ingredient of his choosing, under supervision, to prove my scrap methods could handle true power. He chose dragon pepper marrow. The whole kitchen reacted when the sealed black box arrived. Dragon pepper marrow was not from a dragon. Actual dragons were treaty protected and apparently had lawyers. It came from a fireback drake, a scaled monster that grew red marrow nodes near the spine. The marrow was prized because it stimulated body cultivation, especially heat resistance and explosive strength. It was also infamous for burning out weak channels, which made Caldor's intention obvious. If I failed, he would call me a fraud. If the nobles got sick, he would blame me. If I refused, I would violate his written order. A beautiful triangle of garbage. I touched the cracked spoon to the sealed jar. Heat surged up my arm so fast I nearly dropped it. Not warmth, fire. Then numbness, deep and humming, spread across my tongue. Monodense, unstable, dangerous raw. I looked at Caldor. This marrow needs staged rendering, mineral buffering, and acid balance. If served as noble cuisine traditionally prepares it, it will injure them. He smiled. Are you refusing? No, I said. I am documenting my preparation warning. I made him sign the prep sheet. He did, because arrogance is a spice people add to their own disasters. The dragon pepper marrow took 12 hours. First, I smoked it over ashwood to calm the outer heat. Then I rendered it slowly with moon barley and cold root slices. The spoon burned in my hand when the flame was too high. I lowered it. I added fermented thornroot 1 spoon at a time until the harsh fire rounded into something like roasted chili and brown butter. Then I made the mistake that changed everything. I tasted it. A proper taste, half a spoon. Fire rolled down my throat. For one terrifying second, I thought Caldor had won through sheer ingredient violence. Then my stomach clenched around the heat. Not rejected. Processed. The fire spread through my limbs, not wild but structured. My weak mana channels did not absorb it like cores. My digestion broke it down, filtered it, softened it, and sent it through my body as nourishment. My skin flushed. My old kitchen scars prickled. The cold knot in my chest turned into a coal. I gripped the counter until the stone cracked under one finger. Joran, who had been pretending not to worry from the doorway, rushed in. Mira. I am fine, I said. My voice came out smoky. He stared at my hand, so did I. The stone counter had a small fracture where my fingertip pressed. 3rd milestone. Broth cleared mana sickness. Stamina meals doubled training. Dragon pepper marrow strengthened my own body. Not because I was born special. Because everyone else was trying to swallow magic like coins, and I was learning to digest it like food. I served the noble team a diluted version, not the full stew. I was angry, not criminal. They sweated, they cursed, they survived. Arlen's strength increased by morning, and he hated that he owed it to me. Caldor hated it more. So he changed tactics. On day 9, he sent inspectors to waste recovery. Not royal inspectors, his inspectors. 2 senior stewards who owed him salaries and 1 alchemy assistant who looked at Caldor like a dog waiting for meat. They checked my jars, my flame runes, my cold boxes, my serving logs. They found nothing unsafe. Because I was a professional. Then they found the 3 sealed jars of blue-gray foam. The alchemy assistant held one up. Contaminated residue. Caldor arrived within minutes, which was impressive timing for a man who definitely had not planned it. He looked at the jar, then at me. Possession of unstable beast residue, he said. After a poisoning accusation, Assistant Solven, you have made this very easy. I sighed. Truly, deeply sighed. Dean Caldor, I said. Those jars are labeled as skimmed residue from infirmary treatment broth, preserved for diagnostic comparison under healer observation. Joran stepped forward, pale but steady. I observed the extraction. Caldor turned on him. You are a junior healer. Yes, Joran said, voice shaking, which means I still write legibly. He held up 6 signed symptom sheets. I could have kissed him. I did not, because timing matters. Caldor's face hardened. Both of you will present yourselves before the examination board in 5 days. If your claims fail public review, your licenses will be revoked. 5 days. There was the countdown, inside the countdown. The public monster cuisine examination still began in 14 days from my arrival. But now, I had 5 days before Caldor tried to destroy me in front of the board. He thought public review would frighten me. It did. But kitchens are built on public review. Every plate is evidence. Every sick guest is evidence. Every satisfied customer is evidence. And unlike Caldor, I had kept my receipts. The hidden leverage was not the spoon. It was not my earth knowledge. It was not even the broth. It was a boring sentence in the Academy Food Safety Code, Article 19, Subclause 4. All monster-derived ingredients served to students must retain an unbroken origin record from kill site to kitchen service, including core status, organ classification, handler seal, and vault temperature. Boring enough to be ignored. Sharp enough to cut a dean's throat without spilling blood. Mira Solven had known the rule because kitchen assistants were forced to memorize food safety law after a noble child once ate improperly cured basilisk tongue and slept for 9 days. But the old Mira had never had the confidence to use it. She thought rules protected important people. On Earth, I had learned a different lesson. Rules protect whoever can prove the violation. So Joran and I went hunting. Not monsters, records. For 5 nights after service, we traced the illegal ingredients backward through the academy. The spoon helped identify which scraps matched which mana signatures. Joran's symptom charts connected sickness patterns to specific meals. I compared kitchen logs, cold vault seals, butcher room hooks, delivery times, and waste weights. Caldor had been hoarding rare ingredients for noble students for months. Not just better cuts, illegal organs. Wyvern adrenal glands, Meyer hydra bile sacs, fireback drake marrow nodes beyond permitted dosage, nightboar liver too close to the core cavity, things restricted because they carried unstable core, residue unless processed by licensed refiners. But refiners were expensive. Caldor had wanted fast results before the public examination. Stronger noble students meant royal grant renewal, noble donations, and another year of him sitting in the dean's chair like the academy was his private dining room. When experiments worked, noble students got stronger. When experiments failed, common students got blamed, kitchen workers got dismissed, and healers were told not to ask impolite questions. The origin ledgers should have shown everything. Instead, there were gaps. A missing handler's seal on the nightboar liver. A cold vault entry changed from wyvern organ tissue to poultry stock base. A delivery cart signed out at 2:00 a.m. by Caldor's private steward. 3 feast menus listing seasonal marrow glaze with no monster species named. Better yet, Article 19 had a companion rule. If an origin record was incomplete, every ingredient from the same batch could be placed under safety hold by any licensed kitchen worker, healer, or instructor pending review. Any licensed kitchen worker. Caldor had forgotten to revoke my license before trying to force my confession. That kind of administrative laziness deserved a garnish. On the 4th night, Joran found the strongest piece. He came into waste recovery breathless, holding a folded transfer copy against his chest. I found the original cold vault request. He laid it on the counter. There was Caldor's seal. There was the ingredient, corrupted wyvern core, partial culinary stabilization trial. There was the intended use, noble combat feast enhancement. My spoon went numb from 2 feet away. Corrupted wyvern core. Even in Mira's memories, those 3 words carried weight. Wyvern cores were unstable because wyverns converted aerial fire mana through a second stomach gland. If corrupted, the core carried flame rot, a twisting mana that burned channels from inside. Absorbing one directly was a famous way to become either powerful or dead, with dead being much more common. Caldor had planned to process it through food. Badly. The nightboar liver scandal was not the main crime. It was the rehearsal. The corrupted wyvern core was meant for the public examination. He wanted to feed a stabilized portion to Arlen Voss on stage, trigger a dramatic power surge, and claim Verath Academy had pioneered monster cuisine cultivation. He had the right idea in the stupidest possible hands. Monster meat could be cultivation food. I had proven that. But not by lying, overdosing students, and pretending heat was the same thing as nutrition. I stared at the transfer copy for a long time. Joran watched my face. You are thinking something dangerous. I am thinking something cooked. That is not better. I touched the spoon to the copy, though paper had no flavor. The memory of numbness lingered. A corrupted wyvern core was too dangerous for students, too dangerous for nobles, too dangerous for anyone trying to absorb it raw. But my body had changed. The dragon pepper stew had awakened something in my digestion. Not immunity, not invincibility, a process, a way of breaking harsh mana down through heat, acid, fermentation, and time. A chef's path. Still dangerous. Possibly insane. Definitely not something I would test, because pride demanded it. I would test it because Caldor had already ordered the core into the academy kitchen, and if I did nothing, he would feed it to a student on stage. That night, I placed a safety hold on every ingredient connected to Caldor's private stores. I used Article 19. I signed my name. Joran signed as healer witness. Master Edric signed too, after I showed him the Nightbore gap, and asked whether he wanted to be the supervisor of record when a royal examiner found illegal organ tissue in his kitchen. He signed so fast the quill squeaked. At 6:00 a.m., 12 cold vaults locked. By 6:07, noble breakfast lost Imberstag marrow, frosteel eggs, and moonhen custard. By 6:15, Caldor stormed into the kitchen hall in full Dean robes. Mira Solven. I was kneading moonbarley dough. Very therapeutic. You have exceeded your authority, he said. I dusted flour from my hands. I followed food safety law. You placed academy examination ingredients under hold. Yes. Release them. No. The kitchen stopped. Caldor's voice dropped. You are one common cook. Assistant cook, I corrected. Licensed. Currently under your written order to prepare recovery meals for lower-ranked combat students. Also the initiating party on an Article 19 safety hold. His eyes burned. You do not understand what you are interfering with. I understand exactly what unstable core residue does when served to students. He stepped closer. I smelled expensive incense and old anger. I gave him one last warning, because I am apparently generous. Dean Caldor, if your records are clean, the board will release the ingredients. If they are not, forcing release will make the violation intentional. He smiled then. Not polite, not public. Ugly. You think rules matter more than patrons. I looked at the locked vaults, the watching kitchen staff, the common students lined up for breakfast, and Joran standing near the infirmary door with shaking hands and steady eyes. No, I said. I think patrons leave when rules become evidence. He laughed. 5 days later, he stopped laughing. The examination board convened in the Hall of Antlers, which was exactly as subtle as it sounds. Every wall was covered in trophies from academy hunts. Stag horns, basilisk crests, wyvern wing bones, serpent fangs. The main table was carved from a monster skull so large that 30 officials could sit around it and still have room for bad decisions. Dean Caldor sat at the center in black and gold. I sat at the left end in a plain kitchen uniform. Joran sat beside me with 6 folders, 2 ink stains on his sleeve, and the expression of a man trying not to faint near authority. The board included 3 academy governors, 1 royal food safety examiner, 2 noble patrons, the head of healing, Master Edric, and Arlen Voss as combat representative. Lysa and the lower-ranked students waited in the gallery, scrubbed and nervous. Caldor opened with confidence. He accused me of hoarding unstable residue, distributing unauthorized meals, interfering with examination preparation, and using common students as test subjects. It was a strong performance. Very polished. Almost Michelin-starred nonsense. Then he called for my license to be revoked and Joran's healer track to be suspended. The royal examiner, a narrow woman named Dame Oral, turned to me. Assistant Solven, your response. I stood. My legs were steady. That surprised me more than anyone. Dean Caldor is correct about one thing, I said. I prepared unauthorized meals. Murmurs. Caldor smiled. I continued. They became unauthorized because he failed to authorize safe food for common students while authorizing illegal organ trials for noble students. The smile faded. I placed the first document on the table. This is Dean Caldor's written order assigning me to waste recovery and common mess preparation using rejected materials. Second document. This is his written order expanding my meals to all lower-ranked combat students and assigning me liability. Third. These are serving logs for 68 students over 8 days. Fourth, these are Joran Vale's symptom and recovery records. Joran stood and explained the symptoms calmly. Vomiting, blue sweat, inflamed channels, trembling, recovery timelines after broth. He did not embellish. He did not accuse beyond the data. He was terrified and brilliant. The head healer leaned forward. Dame Oral asked, "You claim broth cleared Mana sickness." "I claim properly prepared monster bone broth, reduced symptoms, consistent with core stress reaction," Joran said. I could have applauded. Caldor waved a hand. Anecdotes from common students. Dame Oral looked at him. "Sit." He sat. A small joy. I cherished it. Then I presented the food. Not fancy, no golden plates, no noble garnish. 3 bowls. Clear nightboar recovery broth. Moonbarley stamina stew. Dragon pepper marrow reduction, diluted to safe dose. Dame Oral tested each with a silver safety needle, then with a mana prism. The prism glowed steady gold for the broth, deep green for the stamina stew, and controlled red for the marrow. No spikes. No black flares. No flame rot. The board tasted tiny portions under healer supervision. Within minutes, even the skeptical noble patrons felt the warmth. One of them, Lord Hasten, blinked at his bowl. "This is made from waste cuts." "Rejected materials," I said. "Mostly bones, tendon, bruised roots, and careful heat." Master Edric looked personally offended by how good the word bruised sounded. Caldor stood too fast. "Taste proves nothing. She is a cook pretending at cultivation theory." "Assistant cook," I said again. "Petty, yes. Worth it, also yes." Then I asked Dame Oral to open the origin ledgers. That was when the room changed. Ledgers are boring until important people realize they are trapped in them. The first missing seal was dismissed as clerical error. The second gap made the governors frown. The third, altered entry made Dame Oral remove her gloves. The fourth showed Caldor's private steward signing, restricted wyvern organ tissue into the kitchen under a poultry code. The noble patrons stopped whispering. Caldor's voice sharpened. "Those are preliminary stores. Examination research requires flexibility." "Research still requires logs," Dame Oral said. I placed the final transfer copy down. The corrupted wyvern core request. For the first time, Caldor looked at me like I was not a kitchen worker. He looked at me like I was a knife he had left on the wrong table. Dame Oral read the document in silence. Then she asked, "Where's the core now?" Caldor spread his hands. "Secured." I lifted the cracked spoon. "No, it is in Cold Vault 3, mislabeled as Smoked River Carp Base, Shelf 7, black ceramic jar, beneath 2 trays of moonhen shells." Every head turned. Caldor went white around the mouth. Dame Oral sent 2 guards. We waited 7 minutes. Long enough for every powerful person in the room to understand that silence has weight. The guards returned with the black ceramic jar. The mana prism near it flickered red, then black, then red again. Numbness filled my mouth from across the table. Dame Oral's face hardened. "This is a corrupted wyvern core." Caldor stood. "For controlled examination use." "Under what stabilization method?" He hesitated. "Just 1 breath. But 1 breath can ruin a kingdom if the right people are listening." I stepped forward. He planned to serve it through noble feast enhancement. The nightboar liver sickness was from the same method applied to a lesser organ. He did not log it because Article 19 would stop him. Caldor snapped, "You cannot prove intent." I nodded. "That is true." His eyes flashed with relief. Then I said, "So I will prove method." I took out my prep journal. For 5 days, I had recreated his failed process on harmless trace samples from seized waste. High heat, no acid, no staged dilution, no fermentation, no mineral buffering. Every sample produced the same blue-gray unstable foam found in the sick student's broth residue. Then I showed my method. Low heat, acid balance, moonbarley absorption, fermented thorn root stabilization, fat separation, monoprism readings at each stage. The board watched the difference between arrogance and technique become visible in glass vials. Caldor tried to interrupt 3 times. Dame Oral silenced him twice. The 3rd time, Arlen Voss stood. The noble captain looked ill again, but not from food. He told us the sickness meant our bodies were adapting, Arlen said. He said commoners could not understand noble cultivation. The room went very still. Caldor stared at him with murder in his eyes. Arlen looked away. He said if we complained, our families would learn we lacked willpower. There it was. Not just records. Witnesses. Fear turning around. Dame Oral closed the ledger. Dean Caldor Vey, she said. Pending full royal review, you are suspended from Academy authority. All private ingredient stores are seized. All examination entries under your seal are frozen. Caldor's chair scraped backward. You cannot remove me before the public examination. Dame Oral looked at the governors. The governors looked at the noble patrons. The noble patrons looked at the corrupted core. Money has instincts. Lord Hasten stood. The Academy will proceed without him. Caldor turned to me then. His face was no longer polished. It was raw. You have doomed Verath, he said. I looked at the bowls on the table, the broth, the stew, the marrow. No, I said, I seasoned it. Caldor's suspension should have been the end. It was not. Powerful people rarely collapse all at once. They wobble, bargain, threaten, and leak poison into the floorboards. The moment the board adjourned, his allies scattered through the academy like mice in noble shoes. One steward tried to remove ledgers from the cold vault office. Master Edric locked him inside with the inventory shelves until Dame Oral's guards arrived. I respected him more every hour. 2 noble patrons withdrew their donations by sunset, then quietly restored them the next morning after learning Caldor's private stores had been seized, not the Academy's core license. 3 combat instructors claimed they had always questioned the dean's methods. They had not. But I had worked restaurants. I knew the smell of people rewriting menus after bad reviews. Caldor came to see me that night. Not in the kitchen, not publicly. He found me in waste recovery, while I was scrubbing a stockpot big enough to bathe a goat. Joran was at the infirmary filing reports. Lysa and the others were training under watch. For the first time in 9 days, I was alone. Caldor entered without guards. A mistake. Not because I would hurt him, I would not. Because there were 3 boiling pots, 4 clean exits, and a woman who had spent 12 years around sharp objects. Confidence should have limits. He looked older without the room supporting him. Assistant Solven, he said. Mira, I said, you have lost the right to pretend formality is respect. His nostrils flared. Then he surprised me. He bowed his head. Not deeply, not sincerely, but enough to show he was desperate. I can restore your position, more than restore it. Senior culinary researcher. Private stipend. Your brother's medicine paid for 1 year. Joran promoted. The common students supplied. We can say this was an internal correction. There it was. The offer. Money, rank, protection, silence. On Earth, I had seen owners offer the same thing after unsafe kitchens got caught. Free dinner, refunds, promotions, anything except accountability. I rinsed the pot. You are suspended. Temporary. Your stores are seized. My family has influence. Your records are copied. His jaw tightened. Records can be interpreted. I turned off the flame under the broth. The quiet hiss filled the room. 6 students were sick from your methods before I woke up here. More would have been used in the examination. You were going to feed a corrupted wyvern core to Arlen in public. He agreed to enhancement. He did not agree to be lied to. Caldor stepped closer. Do not act pure. You use the same core science to strengthen yourself. I looked at him. That was the first time I realized he had guessed. Not all of it, but enough. He had seen the cracked counter. The way the dragon pepper marrow heat no longer made me sweat. The way I moved now, steadier, warmer, less like the old Mira. You are right, I said. His eyes sharpened. I used dangerous ingredients, I continued. On myself first, in controlled doses, with logs, witnesses, safety holds, and no lies. You think that makes you better? No, I said. I think it makes the students alive. He had no answer for that. So he reached for cruelty. You are still common-born. When this attention fades, nobles will remember what you are. I smiled a little. Good. That caught him off guard. I want them to remember exactly what I am. A common-born kitchen worker who read the law you ignored, fed the students you starved, and turned your illegal experiment into an audit trail. His face twisted. Forgetting will cost extra. Caldor left without another word. The next 3 days were chaos. The academy needed an examination menu without illegal stores. The noble team needed safe recovery food. The common team, newly energized by the fact that someone had finally embarrassed authority in public, needed to not get themselves expelled before the big day. Dame Oral remained on site. She watched everything. I liked her because she had the emotional range of a locked cabinet and the ethics of a guillotine. She authorized me as temporary combat cuisine lead. Temporary, because institutions love using the person who saved them, while keeping a hand near the door. I accepted. With conditions. All students, noble and common, ate from the same safety-cleared menu. All ingredients logged. All prep witnessed by kitchen staff and healers. No direct core absorption during the examination without healer approval. All waste recovery methods documented as academy property only if my name and Joran's were attached. The governors argued. Dame Oral asked whether they preferred another royal seizure. They stopped arguing. The students changed too. Not magically. People do not become good overnight because soup exists. But hunger is honest. Noble students who had mocked the common meals started appearing near the kitchen hall with empty bowls and complicated expressions. Some tried ordering me around. I made them wait. Some tried apologizing with family phrases that sounded like they had been carved from ice. I made them eat anyway. Arlen came last. He stood by the door, hands clenched. I was wrong, he said. Yes. He winced. You are not supposed to agree that quickly. I'm a cook. We respect timing. He looked at the floor. I need to perform at the examination. Without Caldor's enhancements, I do not know if I can. Honest fear, finally. I handed him a bowl of stamina stew. Then train like someone who has to earn digestion. He took it. Lysa watched from a bench nearby, amused. By day 13, the academy combat teams had changed. Common students lasted twice as long in drills. Noble students stopped shaking after meals. The kitchen staff began weighing scraps with the seriousness of jewelers. Joran's symptom sheets became official forms. Master Edric started calling moonbarley absorption Solven buffering when he thought I could not hear. As for me, I prepared for the corrupted wyvern core. Not for glory. Not for revenge. For containment. Dame Oral planned to seal it and send it to the royal vault after the examination. But Caldor still had supporters. If the core vanished before transfer, blame could spread. If it ruptured, students could die. If somebody reckless tried to absorb it, we would have a tragedy with witnesses. So I asked for permission to stabilize it publicly. Dame Oral said, "That is extremely dangerous." I said, "Yes." Joran said, "Absolutely not." Lysa said, "Can I watch?" No one appreciated Lysa enough. I spent the final night preparing a wyvern core reduction base with 3 safety stages and 1 emergency purge. Fermented thornroot aged for 7 days. charred cold root ash, moon barley soaked in nightboar broth, dragon pepper marrow in a thread-thin dose to train my body toward flame rather than shock. The cracked spoon went numb every time I approached the core. But beneath the numbness, if I held steady, there was warmth. Buried fire. Wild, corrupted, but not meaningless. Like a ruined sauce that could still be saved if you understood where it had broken. At dawn, Joran found me in the kitchen and tied a red healer's cord around my wrist. What is this? If your channels destabilize, it will turn black. And then I drag you to the infirmary and yell at you until you apologize. I looked at him. He looked away first. Somewhere between broth and scandal, his worry had become warmer than friendship and quieter than confession. I squeezed the cord once. I will try very hard not to ruin your morning. You ruin most of them. Fair. The examination bell rang across Verath. 14 days had passed. Caldor had underestimated a kitchen worker, a healer, 68 hungry students, 1 law clause, and a cracked spoon. Now the whole kingdom was coming to taste the consequences. The public monster cuisine examination took place in the arena courtyard, because apparently this world believed food safety improved when observed by 1,200 shouting people. There were 5 academy teams, 3 royal judges, 6 noble sponsor boxes, and enough flags to make the courtyard look like a laundry accident. Each academy had to present 1 combat dish, 1 recovery dish, and 1 live field application. The combat teams would then complete a controlled monster trial using the meals provided. Verath was expected to fail. Rumors had spread, deans suspended, ingredients seized, common cook in charge, noble students recovering from unsafe enhancement. If gossip were edible, the crowd would have been full before breakfast. Caldor was there. Suspended, but not absent. He sat in the West sponsor box beside his older brother, Lord Vey, who wore a fur collar and the expression of a man calculating whether family loyalty was still profitable. Caldor's face was smooth again, but his eyes stayed fixed on me. Let him watch. I stood behind our cooking station with Joran at my right, Master Edric at my left, and 12 kitchen workers who had suddenly discovered posture. Lysa, Arlen, and 4 others made up our mixed combat squad. 3 common, 3 noble. Equal meals, equal risk, equal records. A tiny miracle, bureaucratically speaking. The first 2 academies presented dramatic dishes. One served thundereel skewers that made their team's hair stand up. Another served frostbear heart dumplings that produced visible ice breath and mild arrogance. The crowd loved both. I respected neither. Too flashy, too sharp, too much raw mana, like watching someone pour jet fuel into athletes and call it hydration. When Verath's turn came, whispers rolled through the stands. Dame Oral sat with the royal judges, face unreadable. I began with the recovery broth. Clear gold nightboar bone broth, stabilized with cloud turnip, ginger leaf, and fermented thornroot. Simple, humble. The judges tasted, waited, then nodded as the mana prism glowed steady. Then the stamina meal. Moonbarley marrow stew with smoked horned hair tendon, ironleaf ferment, and mineral ash. Not pretty. Deep brown, rich, savory, the kind of food that smells like surviving winter. The prism glowed green gold. The common students in the gallery started cheering before the judges did. Then the combat dish. Dragon pepper marrow thread folded into charred root paste and served with cooling grain cakes. Controlled fire. Slow release. Enough to strengthen, not enough to burn. Arlen ate his portion without flinching. Lysa ate hers and grinned like a wolf. The trial gates opened. 6 controlled monsters entered the arena. 2 stoneback boars, 3 razor imps, and 1 juvenile ash serpent with its venom sacs sealed. Dangerous, but not deadly under supervision. Our team moved. Not like nobles dragging commoners. Not like commoners trying to prove they belonged. Like people who had trained on the same fuel. Lysa anchored the left with her spear. Arlen took the center. The Trapcraft twins, officially allowed in after Dame Oral questioned why Verath wasted good students, set snare lines with ridiculous speed. The archer pinned Razor imps away from the healers. The shield boy took a stoneback charge and stayed standing. 14 days ago, he would have folded. Now he slid back 2 feet, breathed and held. The crowd felt it. You could hear realization move through them. The trial ended in 9 minutes and 42 seconds. Verath ranked second in combat time, first in recovery stability, and first in resource efficiency. Resource efficiency mattered, because our dishes used rejected cuts worth 1/10 of the noble ingredients consumed by the other academies. That got the sponsors leaning forward. Money has instincts, remember. Caldor stood in the west box. I did not hear what he said to his brother, but I saw his hand gesture toward the royal judges, then toward me. His last play was obvious before he made it. He would claim the method. He would say it came from his research, his stores, his private monster cuisine program. He would argue that I only executed his vision and that his suspension should be lifted because the results proved he was right. Men like Caldor do not need innocence. They only need ownership. A royal judge stood to announce Verath's provisional score. Caldor interrupted. His voice carried through an amplification charm. Honored judges, Verath Academy is grateful that Assistant Solven has demonstrated the foundation laid by my culinary cultivation research. Though procedural errors have been alleged, today proves the theory was sound. With proper noble oversight, this method can restore Verath's rightful status. There it was. A theft attempt wrapped in gratitude. The crowd murmured. The governor stiffened. Dame Oral's eyebrow moved 1 millimeter, which from her felt like a riot. I stepped forward and bowed to the judges. With permission, I said, I would like to complete Verath's live field application. The senior judge frowned. Your team has already completed the monster trial. Yes, I said, but one examination ingredient remains under royal safety hold. A corrupted wyvern core brought into academy stores under Dean Caldor's seal. Since he has now publicly claimed the research, I request permission to demonstrate the difference between his method and mine. The arena went silent. Caldor's face drained. Dame Oral stood. The core is present under guard for transfer. The risk is significant. I understand. Joran whispered, Mira. I looked at him. If I fall over, yell professionally. That is not funny. No, but it is helping. The judges conferred. Caldor tried to sit down. His brother caught his sleeve and hissed something that looked very much like, What did you do? Dame Oral allowed the demonstration under 3 conditions. Healer cord active, purge array ready, and no student exposure. Good. That was all I wanted. The black ceramic jar was carried into the arena. Even sealed, the corrupted wyvern core made the air taste numb. The crowd shifted as red-black light pulsed through the ceramic seams. I set my pot over a low blue flame. Not a cauldron, not an alchemy vessel. A pot. That mattered. Caldor had treated food like a disguise for core absorption. I treated it like transformation. I added moonbarley base first, then cold root ash, then fermented thornroot. The spoon numbed my fingers. I breathed through it. I cracked the jar seal with tongs. Red-black vapor curled out like angry smoke. The purge array hummed. Joran's healer cord stayed red. I lowered a fragment of the core into the base. The pot screamed. Not like a person, like metal warping. The crowd recoiled. Caldor half rose. I adjusted the flame down. Added marrow thread. Skimmed black foam. Added acid. Waited. Skimmed again. The spoon burned, then numbed, then warmed. That was the path. Bitter corruption lifted with the foam. Numb instability bound to the barley. Heat remained. Clean fire under ruin. For 21 minutes, I cooked while the kingdom watched. No speech, no drama, just control. When the reduction stabilized, the mana prism shifted from black-red to deep amber. Dame Oral stared. The senior judge whispered, "Impossible." "No, just underfunded." I took one spoonful. Joran made a sound like someone stepping on his soul. The fire hit my stomach and unfolded. Not pain. Power. My cultivated digestion caught the corrupted wyvern mana, broke it apart, burned the rot, and fed the flame into the coal the dragon pepper stew had awakened. Heat moved through my bones. My skin shimmered gold red. My breath warmed the air. The healer cord flickered dark once. I swallowed, grounded my feet, and exhaled. A veil of flame rolled from my mouth, not wild, not destructive, but shaped. It curled around me like a dragon's breath made of aura, bright enough to cast shadows across the arena stones. The crowd erupted. I lifted one hand. The flame folded back into my skin. No burns. No collapse. No seizure. Just me, standing behind a cooking station with a cracked spoon and a body that had learned to turn monster ruin into strength. Caldor's brother stood. Slowly. Then he stepped away from Caldor in front of everyone. That was the moment Caldor truly lost. Not when the judge declared my method valid. Not when Dame Oral ordered his research claims frozen. Not when the governors removed his academy seal. He lost when his own noble protection decided he had become expensive. The senior judge announced Veyrath's final ranking. First in safety. First in innovation. First in field recovery. Second in combat speed. Overall champion by unanimous ruling. Then Dame Oral read the royal sanction aloud. Caldor Vey was removed as dean pending criminal review of illegal ingredient use, falsified origin logs, student endangerment, and attempted misappropriation of licensed culinary cultivation research. Caldor tried to speak. The amplification charm did not carry his voice. A small mercy. For us. After public disasters, people always remember urgent appointments elsewhere. By sunset, Caldor's sponsor box was empty except for him, 2 royal guards, and a spilled cup of wine no servant bothered to clean. His brother filed a formal statement distancing House Vey from unsanctioned academy experimentation. The noble patrons withdrew personal protection. The governors, who had smiled beside Caldor for years, discovered deep concern for student safety at remarkable speed. I was not impressed. But I was practical. Dame Oral's review moved quickly because the examination had given her witnesses from 5 academies and 3 royal offices. The origin ledgers were seized. The cold vaults stayed locked. Caldor's private steward confessed after learning he would otherwise absorb full liability for the falsified entries. Amazing how loyalty ferments under pressure. The final academy tribunal took place 3 days later. Caldor arrived without dean robes. He looked smaller in plain black. The charges were read: illegal beast organ use in student meals, incomplete origin records, mislabeling restricted ingredients, coercion of kitchen staff, retaliation against a licensed worker, and unsafe corrupted core research. The royal court would decide criminal penalties later, but the academy could decide rank. They stripped him of the dean's seat. Revoked his academy authority. Fined his estate 9,000 gold crowns for medical restitution and safety violations. Banned him from holding educational office for 12 years. Suspended his monster cuisine research license permanently. He stood through all of it with his jaw clenched so tightly I wondered whether noble dentistry included pride removal. Then came the offers. Not from him at first. From everyone else. Veyrath's governors offered me senior culinary cultivator rank, a private kitchen, and 300 gold crowns a month. One noble patron offered to sponsor my brother's medicine if I agreed to serve his family during hunting season. A merchant guild offered exclusive distribution rights to my stamina meals. A royal aide quietly suggested that if I signed my method over to the crown, I could receive lifelong comfort. Lifelong comfort is a lovely phrase. So is gilded cage. I said no to all exclusive claims. Politely. Professionally. Repeatedly. I did accept a position, but on terms that made 3 governors look like they had swallowed vinegar. Combat chef and culinary cultivation instructor of Verath Academy. Independent license. Royal safety oversight. Equal meal access for all training ranks. My brother's medicine covered by the Academy Health Fund, not by private patronage. Joran appointed official clinical liaison for monster cuisine trials. Lysa and the lower-ranked students granted full combat team eligibility. All methods documented under joint authorship. Mira Solven and Joran Vale, with kitchen hall contributors listed by name. No noble ownership. No private hoarding. No student testing without consent. Dame Oral reviewed the contract, added 2 sharper clauses, and told the governors, sign before she becomes expensive. I decided I liked her. Caldor came to see me one last time before royal guards transferred him to the capital. This time, we met in the open kitchen hall with 12 witnesses. Growth is learning not to be alone with men who hate consequences. He looked at the new ledgers, the cleaned stations, the students eating recovery stew at long tables. You took everything from me, he said. I set down my ladle. No, I logged what you took from others. His eyes flicked to the cracked spoon at my belt. You think you are safe because they cheer now. No, I said. I think I am safer because everything is written down. He laughed bitterly. You are still not one of them. I looked across the hall. Joran was teaching 2 junior healers how to record channel symptoms. Lysa was arguing with Arlen over portion sizes. Master Edric was yelling at a noble boy for leaving marrow fat unsealed. Common and noble students sat at the same tables because hunger had done what lectures could not. I know, I said. That is why I can see the kitchen clearly. For a moment, his anger faltered. Maybe he expected me to gloat. Maybe he expected rage. But I had spent too many years on Earth watching bad managers blame dishwashers, servers, line cooks, immigrants, teenagers, anyone without power, for systems designed to fail. I had no need to scream at Caldor. His life was already becoming paperwork. And paperwork is patient. The guards took him away. The kitchen did not stop working. That felt right. Real consequences rarely end with thunder. They end with someone cleaning the station properly afterward. Over the next month, Verath changed. Not perfectly. Nobles still acted noble. Governors still loved money. Students still tried to skip vegetables unless watched. But the food changed first, and then the training changed, and then the rankings changed because bodies do not care about bloodlines when they are finally fed. The lower-ranked students improved fastest. That made people uncomfortable. Good. Comfort had been overrated. The stamina meals spread to every training squad. The recovery broth became standard after monster trials. The dragon pepper marrow stew was restricted to advanced students and me because I was not stupid enough to hand fire digestion to teenagers with swords. As for the corrupted wyvern method, Dame Oral sealed it under royal review until safety protocols could be built. She asked me to consult. I agreed for a fee. A generous one. I sent half the first payment to my brother's physician and the other half to the kitchen workers' emergency fund. The old Mira had lived one missed wage away from hunger. I remembered that because her memories were mine now, and because I had woken up in her worst moment holding a knife someone else wanted to turn into a confession. I never forgot the original Mira. Maybe I was her now. Maybe I had replaced her. Maybe transmigration was just another kind of recipe, 2 lives reduced together until you could not separate the flavors. I only knew this. Her hands became mine. Her fear became mine. and her chance to stop being disposable became mine too. 6 months after the examination, I stood in the arena courtyard again and watched Vareth's top duelist try to knock me down. His name was Selvin Rowe, third-year noble, lightning affinity, ranked first before the food reforms and extremely offended that a kitchen instructor had entered the combat demonstration bracket. He moved beautifully. I will give him that. His blade snapped with blue arcs. His footwork was clean. His mana output was 3 times what mine had been when I woke up in the butcher room. Unfortunately for Selvin, output is not the same as control. Also, he had eaten my breakfast. That meant I knew exactly when his stamina curve would dip. At 4 minutes and 10 seconds, his shoulders tightened. At 4 minutes and 32 seconds, his lightning flickered. At 4 minutes and 41 seconds, I stepped inside his guard, exhaled flame breath aura across the flat of his practice blade, and melted the frost charms stabilizing his grip. His sword clattered onto the sand. I stopped 1 inch from his chest. No burn. No injury. Just heat shimmering between us, like a polite warning. The arena went silent. Then Lysa started clapping, like an absolute menace. Joran, seated with the healers, covered his face with his clipboard, but I could see his ears turning red. Selvin stared at me. "You are a cook," he said. I smiled. Yes. That was all. What else needed saying? By then, everyone knew the milestones. The broth that cleared mana sickness. The stamina meals that let weak students train twice as long. The dragon pepper marrow stew that built my fire body foundation. The corrupted wyvern core reduction that gave me flame breath aura and made the royal judges invent 3 new safety categories. But the public version always sounded cleaner than the truth. The truth was sleepless nights, burnt fingers, failed batches, bitter spoon warnings, Joran yelling at me to stop tasting dangerous things, Master Edric yelling at everyone else to stop touching my labeled jars, Lysa sneaking extra stew for students too proud to ask, and me learning that power could be built 1 controlled dose at a time. My cultivation path became known as culinary fire body refinement. I hated the name. It sounded like a restaurant concept, opened by a noble who had never washed a pan. But the method worked. Instead of absorbing beast cores directly, I digested stabilized monster cuisine. My stomach, channels, and breath became a furnace that refined mana through food. I could burn toxins out of ingredients, sense unstable core residue, and feed entire squads meals matched to their training needs. A combat chef. That title stuck. I liked it more than assistant. Caldor's final sentence arrived from the capital in winter. 12-year ban upheld. Estate fines doubled after royal auditors found 3 more falsified ingredient purchases. Personal research license revoked for life. House Vey paid restitution to affected students and publicly withdrew his noble protection. He was not executed, not tortured, not thrown into a dungeon full of poetic monsters. He became irrelevant. Much worse for him. His name remained in the academy records as a case study under ingredient origin violations and institutional risk. I visited that classroom once. The instructor did not realize I was in the back until halfway through the lecture. Very satisfying. My brother recovered enough to visit the academy in spring. He was thinner than I expected from Mira's memories, with sharp eyes and a cautious smile. I made him clear broth with soft moon barley and no dangerous mana at all. He told me it tasted like safety. I had to turn away for a moment. Some victories are too quiet for crowds. Joran stayed beside me through all of it. Officially, he was clinical liaison. Unofficially, he was the only person allowed to take the cracked spoon from my hand when I got that look in my eye near restricted ingredients. One evening, after a long day teaching first years why eat the glowing organ raw was not a cultivation plan, he found me in the kitchen garden. "You know," he said, Most people who transmigrate into magical worlds try to find legendary swords. I looked at the spoon in my hand. The crack down its bowl had deepened, but it still worked. Most people lack imagination. He laughed softly. I liked that sound. The academy bells rang for dinner. Across the courtyard, students lined up by squad, not by rank. Commoners, nobles, scholarship kids, legacy heirs, all waiting for the same meal because performance had made equality temporarily fashionable. I would take it. Then I would make it policy. That was the thing Caldor never understood. Food is not just flavor. It is logistics, health, morale, evidence, and power. Control the kitchen, and you can decide who recovers, who trains, who survives, and who gets blamed when powerful people cut corners. He thought the kitchen was beneath him. That was why he never saw the fire starting there. I still do not know why I woke up in Mira Solven's body. I do not know whether some god chose me, whether the cracked spoon pulled my soul across worlds, or whether the universe simply saw a kitchen scandal and decided it needed a professional. Honestly, I try not to question miracles that come with good knife skills. What I know is that I opened my eyes in a room full of blood, lies, and noble witnesses. I was supposed to become the scapegoat. I was supposed to sign the confession, vanish into the lower city, and let Dean Caldor feed dangerous ambition to children until someone died loudly enough to matter. Instead, I asked for the ledger. I made soup. I kept records. I fed the hungry. I let the law taste what he had been cooking. And when the consequences finally came to the table, they did not need revenge served cold. They needed low heat, clean logs, and enough time for the truth to become tender.